Hare Krishna. It's August 30th, 2023. It's the appearance day of Lord Sri Balarama. And so we'll do some reading of the pastimes of Lord Sri Balarama, perhaps have some discussion. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Krishna, 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 hey. That's from the introduction of Krishna book, Prabhupada quoting Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 7, text 96. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurvanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpati Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nicham Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utamashloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naisviki. So we'll read from Krishna book, officially called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It's a summary study of Srila Vyasadev's Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. So we'll read from chapter 18, Killing the Demon Pralambasura, here on the appearance day of Lord Sri Balarama. Chapter 18, Krishna book. After extinguishing the devastating fire, Krishna surrounded by his relatives, friends, cows and calves, and bulls, glorified by their singing, again entered Vrindavan, which is always full of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan in the midst of the cowherd boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. The summer season in India is not very much welcome because of the excessive heat. But in Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. This was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are the controllers even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. In Vrindavan, there are many falls which are always pouring water, and the sound is so sweet that it covers the sound of the crickets. And because water flows all over, the forest always looks very green and beautiful. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were never disturbed by the scorching heat of the sun or the high summer temperatures. The lakes of Vrindavan are surrounded by green grasses, and various kinds of lotus flowers bloom there, such as the Kalhara Kanjotpala, and the air blowing in Vrindavan carries the aromatic pollen of those lotus flowers. When the particles of water from the waves of the Yamuna, the lakes and the waterfalls touched the bodies of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they automatically felt a cooling effect. Therefore, they were practically undisturbed by the summer season. Vrindavan is such a nice place. Flowers are always blooming, and there are even various kinds of decorated deer. Birds are chirping, peacocks are crowing and dancing, and bees are humming. The cuckoos there sing nicely in 5 kinds of tunes. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, blowing his flute, accompanied by his elder brother Balaram and other cowherd boys and cows, entered the beautiful forest of Vrindavan to enjoy the atmosphere. They walked into the midst of newly grown leaves of trees whose flowers resembled peacock feathers. They were garlanded by those flowers and decorated with saffron chalk. Sometimes they were dancing and singing, and sometimes wrestling with one another. While Krishna danced, some of the cowherd boys sang, and others played on flutes. Some bugled on buffalo horns or clapped their hands, praising Krishna. Dear brother, you are dancing very nicely. Actually, all these boys were demigods descended from higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. The demigods, garbed in the dress of the cowherd boys, were encouraging Krishna in his dancing, just as one artist encourages another with praise. Up to that time, neither Balaram nor Krishna had undergone the haircutting ceremony. Therefore, their hair was clustered like crow's feathers. They were always playing hide and seek with their boy friends, or jumping or fighting with one another. Sometimes, while his friends were chanting and dancing, Krishna would praise them. My dear friends, you are dancing and singing very nicely. The boys played at catching ball with bell-shaped fruits and round amalaki. They played blind man's buff, challenging and touching one another. Sometimes they imitated the forest deer and various kinds of birds. They joked with one another by imitating croaking frogs, and they enjoyed swinging underneath the trees. Sometimes they would play like a king and his subjects amongst themselves. In this way, Balaram and Krishna, along with all their friends, played all kinds of sports and enjoyed the soothing atmosphere of Vrindavan, full of rivers, lakes, rivulets, fine trees, and excellent fruits and flowers. Once, while they were engaged in their transcendental pastimes, a great demon of the name Pralambasura entered their company, desiring to kidnap both Balaram and Krishna. Although Krishna was playing the part of a cowherd boy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could understand everything, past, present, and future. So when Pralambasura entered their company, Krishna began to think how to kill the demon, but externally he received him as a friend. Oh, my dear friend, he said, it is very good that you have come to take part in our pastimes. Krishna then called all his friends and ordered them, now we shall play in pairs. We shall challenge one another in pairs. With this proposal, all the boys assembled together. Some of them took the side of Krishna, and some of them took the side of Balaram, and they arranged to play in duel. The defeated members in duel fighting had to carry the victorious members on their backs. They began playing and at the same time tended the cows as they proceeded through the Bandiravan forest. The party of Balaram, accompanied by Sridham and Vrishaba, came out victorious. And Krishna's party had to carry them on their backs through the Bandiravan forest. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being defeated, had to carry Sridham on his back, and Bhadrasena carried Vrishaba. Imitating their play, Pralambasura, who appeared there as a cowherd boy, carried Balaram on his back. Pralambasura was the greatest of the demons, and he had calculated that Krishna was the most powerful of the cowherd boys. In order to avoid the company of Krishna, Pralambasura carried Balaram far away. The demon was undoubtedly very strong and powerful, but he was carrying Balaram, who was compared with a mountain. Therefore, he began to feel the burden, and thus he assumed his real form. When he appeared in his real feature, he was decorated with a golden helmet and earrings and looked just like a cloud with lightning carrying the moon. Balaram observed the demon's body expanding up to the limits of the clouds, his eyes dazzling like blazing fire and his mouth flashing with sharpened teeth. At first, Balaram was surprised by the demon's appearance, and he began to wonder, how is it that all of a sudden this carrier has changed in every way? But with a clear mind, he could quickly understand that he was being carried away from his friends by a demon who intended to kill him. Immediately, he struck the head of the demon with his strong fist, just as the king of the heavenly planets strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt. Being stricken by the fist of Balaram, the demon fell down dead, just like a snake with a smashed head, and blood poured from his mouth. When the demon fell, he made a tremendous sound, and it sounded as if a great hill were falling upon being struck by the thunderbolt of King Indra. All the boys then rushed to the spot. Being astonished by the ghastly scene, they began to praise Balaram with the words, "Well done, well done." All of them then began to embrace Balaram with great affection, thinking that he had returned from death, and they offered their blessings and congratulations. All the demigods in the heavenly planets became very satisfied and showered flowers on the transcendental body of Balaram. And they also offered their blessings and congratulations for his having killed the great demon Pralambasura. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 18th chapter of Krishna killing the demon Pralambasura. Lord Sri Balaram Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So, Jai. So these pastimes, this is real history, right? This happened about 5,200 years ago. And at the same time, without negating or minimizing the story itself, we can get an analogy, a symbolic meaning from the story, and that's valuable too. So this Pralambasura demon, he was dressed as a cowherd boy, as a great follower of Krishna and Balaram, and so then they were playing, and so Balaram was on his back, and he was associated with Pralambasura, right? Like, oh yeah, we won the wrestling, now you carry me. But then, after a short while, Balaram noticed, this so-called devotee is actually bringing me further away from Krishna and the devotees. So I need to do something about this, so we can see that there can be many things that look spiritual or feel spiritual or sound spiritual, or I'll put spiritual in quotes, or even not just spiritual. There can be many things or people or ideas or philosophies or practices that it's bhakti. That's bhakti. That's Krishna consciousness. but we want to have our spiritual intelligence sharply engaged. Like, is this actually moving me deeper into enthusiasm to practice Krishna consciousness, or is this alienating me further? And if it's alienating me further, it's actually a weed in the heart. It's actually a weed in the heart. And I'll be more specific here. Not just is this inspiring me more greatly to practice Krishna consciousness, but more specifically, what effect is this having on my inspiration to follow Srila Prabhupada, to follow the sadhana he gave us, and to practically serve his mission? Is this association? Is this practice? Is this deepening my enthusiasm to serve Srila Prabhupada, my inspiration to follow the sadhana, to read Prabhupada's books, or taking me further away in the name of a coward, in the name of a bhakti? So that's like the key distinctions we want to become more and more expert to be able to make. And I'm stressing Srila Prabhupada there because, at least for myself, I know what is bhakti, and I know anything I might understand about Lord Sri Balaram or Krishna consciousness, or the Vedas or the Bhagavatam, or the practice of bhakti, chanting Hare Krishna, I get from my current link to the Parampara, Srila Prabhupada. So that's the key thing. Otherwise, in the name of spirituality, in the name of mysticism, in the name of bhakti, in the name of Krishna consciousness, there can be so many things like Pralambasura actually taking us further away. So that's my metaphorical purport on this chapter here. Malini, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, you want me to say something?
Well, I welcome you to say something.
I really like that Krishna, he understood who Pralambasura was from the start.
Yeah.
And he could have killed him,
Yeah.
whatever. He doesn't have any problem killing demon, but he created a game. He created a game that, okay, let's all play together. And then he arranged for Balaram, Lord Balaram, to, be a loser.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. And then to carry Pralambasura on his shoulder. It's just, I think it's so creative.
Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. So Krishna, even in these most serious, very serious, sober matters, but he's always playful and joyful and creative and innovative. Yes. Thanks for that. Yes. No, it just so we're clear on the outcome of the game. My understanding is Balaram and his team won, and therefore Krishna and his team had to carry Balaram and his cowherd boys on their back. So Pralambasura was on Krishna's team.
Oh yeah, and then
So Pralambasura was carrying Balaram.
So Balaram carried him. No, he carried Balaram because he lost. That's what you're saying. I'm sorry. Yeah, and Balaram won. Okay. Sorry, I got my team mixed up.
Yeah, this is all win. This is transcendental win-win at the same time. Just so we're clear, who was the winner and who was the loser. Yes, yeah. So thanks for that. And we can see, like let's say the whole demoniac party is headed by Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. Krishna could have taken care of it with one lightning bolt or something, but he arranged the whole thing with Arjuna. So Krishna's just, he's not complying with what might be our limited box of why doesn't he just do it that way? He has his playful plans for reasons, some of which we might begin to grasp, and most of which we're clueless. Thank you. Thanks for that comment, Malini. Any other comments or sharing at this time? Okay, so there's many pastimes in Krishna book, focusing particularly on Lord Balaram. So I'm going to skip to a different part of Krishna book at this time. Okay, so right. So let's move a bit here, and we'll go to chapter 64 in Krishna book. Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. If some of you have a post 1978 edition, it might be chapter 65. Because after the Rasa dance chapters, the chapter numbers change in the different editions. In pre-78, it's Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Okay, that's the name of the chapter. Now, I know if others are here and you have Krishna book, then like we can trade reading paragraphs at the same time. Some of you might be involved in preparing prashad or childcare, so you're not available, but I'll read a paragraph or two. Then if anyone else wants to read, I welcome you to do so. Chapter 64, Krishna book, Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Lord Balaram became very anxious to see his father and mother, Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda. Therefore, he started for Vrindavan on a chariot with great enthusiasm. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had been anxious to see Krishna and Balaram for a very long time. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys and the gopis had grown up. But still, on his arrival, they all embraced him, and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this, he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda and offered his respectful obeisances unto them. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishvara, or the Lord of the universe, who maintains everyone. The reason for this was that both Krishna and Balaram maintain all living entities, and yet Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balaram and, seating him on their laps, began their perpetual crying. Wetting Balaram with their tears. Lord Balaram then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Lord Balaram exchanged feelings of friendship with them. He shook hands with those who were his equals in age and friendship, and with loud laughing embraced each one of them. Okay, so I don't have, much, if any, realization about the intricacies of these transcendental pastimes, but it gets very interesting here. So we know, like, Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, influenced by Yoga Maya, which is like illusion that deepens their love for Krishna and Balaram. They don't understand that Krishna and Balaram are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they simply want to take care of them. All right, so when Balaram comes, and then he offered his respectful obeisances to Maharaj Nanda and Mother Yashoda. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him because they're his superiors in the pastime. They addressed him as Jagadishvara, the Lord of the universe who maintains everyone. So Jagadish means like they kind of know that he's the Lord of the universe. And they're using that term kind of like what Prabhupada says here. Like, okay, you're Lord of the universe, but then how come we experience such difficulties on account of the absence of you and Krishna? Feeling like this, they embraced Balarama and, seating him on their laps, began their perpetual crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. So such affection, and Lord Balaram offered them his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men, and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. So it seems that these residents of Vrindavan certainly at different times, they get a glimpse of who Krishna and Balaram are as like, the source of the sun and the moon and the stars. And then much or most of the time they're in Yoga Maya like that. So just interesting there, Nandi Yashoda showing realization of who Balaram is in the, in the great, powerful, not just, oh, you are a child, I hope you're okay. Malini.
Yeah, recently we were reading from Krishna book when Krishna and Balaram they left Vrindavan to go to Mathura, and the gopis lamentation, and there is a lot of that too, where they are aware that is the supreme personality of Godhead. So it seems they come in and out of illusion.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, the gopis too, and Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj to go. And it relates to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. It's just like, we have this box. Oh, now, they're in Yoga Maya, so they're always in illusion. They don't understand Krishna's God. Well, they don't need to play that way. Krishna can sometimes lift the veil of Maya. It's just, it's not like a box that they have to stay in.
Like us, we are not always in Maya.
Yeah, yes. Okay, thank you, Malini. I'll read another paragraph, and then if someone else wants to read, I welcome you to do so. After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis, and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down. After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Balaram inquired from them about their welfare. And then, not having seen him for such a long time, they began to ask him different questions. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything like elevation to the heavenly planets or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with the absolute truth. They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but were satisfied in living a simple life in the village as cowherd men. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits. And they were all so much in love with him that in his absence, their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balaramji. Would anyone else like to read? I'll continue. From Nanda Maharaj and first, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya inquired, my dear Balaram, are our friends like Vasudeva and others in the family doing well? Now you and Krishna are grown-up married men with children. In the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi? Kind of a lot of pathos there, tugging at the heart. Do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi? It is very good news that the most sinful King Kamsa has been killed by you, and that our friends like Vasudeva and the others who had been harassed by him have now been relieved. It is also very good news that both you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha and Kaliyavana, who now is dead, and that you are now living in a fortified residence in Dwarka. When the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna's and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balaram whether Krishna was enjoying his life surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarka Puri. Okay, so I see the question on the chat. We're on chapter 64 entitled Lord Balaram Visits Vrindavan. You might have a version where it's chapter 65. Okay, so the gopis say, does he sometimes remember his father Nanda and his mother Yashoda and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved while he was in Vrindavan? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother Yashoda? And does he remember us gopis who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Krishna might have forgotten us in the midst of the cultured women of Dwarka. But as far as we are concerned, we are still remembering him by collecting flowers and sewing them into garlands. When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time by crying. If only he would come here and accept these garlands that we have made. Dear Lord Balaram, descendant of Dasharha, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members, but although it might be impossible for others, we gave up our fathers, mothers, sisters, and relatives without caring at all about our renunciation. Then all of a sudden, Krishna renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship without any serious consideration and left for a foreign country. But he was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service that you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him? Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us." Danielle or George, would you like to read? It's a paragraph beginning, another gopi protesting Krishna's absence.
Hare Krishna. Another gopi protesting Krishna's absence from Vrindavan began to say, "My dear Balaram Maji, we are, of course, village girls, so Krishna could cheat us in that way. But what about the women of Dwarka? Don't think they are as foolish as we are. We village women might be misled by Krishna, but the women in the city of Dwarka are very clever and intelligent. Therefore, I would be surprised if such city women could be misled by Krishna and could believe his words." Then another gopi began to speak. "My dear friend," she said, "Krishna is very clever in using words. No one can compete with him in that art. He can manufacture such colorful words and talk so sweetly that the heart of any woman would be misled. Besides that, he has perfected the art of smiling very attractively, and by seeing his smile, women become mad after him and would give themselves to him without any hesitation." Another gopi, after hearing this, said, "My dear friends, what is the use in talking about Krishna? If you are at all interested in passing away time by talking, let us talk on some subject other than him. If cruel Krishna can pass his time without us, why can't we pass our time without Krishna? Of course, Krishna is passing his days very happily without us, but the difference is that we cannot pass our days very happily without him." When the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intensified, and they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. By the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, they could not check their tears, and they began to cry without consideration. Lord Balaram could, of course, understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal and thus treating the gopis very respectfully. He began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. In order to keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied, Lord Balaram stayed there continually for 2 months, namely the months of Chaitra, March, April, and Vaisakha, April, May. For those 2 months, he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan in order to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Thus, Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during those 2 months. Since the season was springtime, the breeze on the banks of the Yamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, especially of the flower known as Kaudmuni. Moonlight filled the sky and spread everywhere, and thus the banks of the Yamuna appeared to be very bright and pleasing, and Lord Balaram enjoyed the company of the gopis there. The demigod, known as Varuna, sent his daughter Varuni in the form of liquid honey oozing from the hollows of the trees. Because of this honey, the whole forest became aromatic, and the sweet aroma of the liquid honey, Varuni, captivated Balaramaji. Balaramaji and the gopis became very much attracted by the taste of Varuni, and all of them drank it together. While drinking this natural beverage, Varuni, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni beverage. His eyes rolled in a pleasing attitude. He was decorated with long garlands of forest flowers, and the whole situation appeared to be a great function of happiness because of this transcendental bliss. Lord Balaram smiled beautifully, and the drops of perspiration decorating his face appeared to be a soothing morning dew. While Balaram was in that happy mood, he desired to enjoy the company of the gopis in the water of the Yamuna. Therefore he called Yamuna to come nearby. But Yamuna neglected the order of Balaramaji, considering him to be intoxicated. Lord Balaram became very much displeased at Yamuna's neglecting his order. He immediately wanted to scratch the land near the river with his plowshare. Lord Balaram has two weapons, a plow and a club, and he takes service from them when they are required. This time he wanted to bring the Yamuna by force, and he took the help of his plow. He wanted to punish Yamuna because she did not come in obedience to his order. He addressed Yamuna, "You wretched river, you did not care for my order. Now I shall teach you a lesson. You did not come to me voluntarily. Now with the help of my plow, I shall force you to come. I shall divide you into hundreds of scattered streams." When Yamuna was threatened like this, she became greatly afraid of the power of Lord Balaram, and immediately came in person, falling at his lotus feet and praying thus: "My dear Balaram, you are the most powerful personality, and you are pleasing to everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot your glorious, exalted position, but now I have come to my senses, and I remember that you hold all the planetary systems on your head merely by your partial expansion as Sesha. You are the sustainer of the whole universe. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are full of 6 opulences. Because I forgot your omnipotence, I have mistakenly disobeyed your order, and thus I have become a great offender. But my dear Lord, please know that I am a surrendered soul unto you. You are very much affectionate to your devotees. Therefore, please excuse my impudence, and mistakes, and by your causeless mercy, may you now release me." Upon displaying this submissive attitude, Yamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balaram wanted to enjoy the pleasure of swimming with her water along with the gopis in the same way an elephant enjoys himself along with his many she-elephants. After a long time, when Lord Balaram had enjoyed his full satisfaction, he came out of the water, and immediately a goddess of fortune offered him a nice blue garment and a valuable necklace made of gold. After taking a bath in the Yamuna, Lord Balaram, dressed in blue garments and decorated with golden ornaments, looked very attractive to everyone. Lord Balaram's complexion is white, and when he was properly dressed, he looked exactly like the white elephant of King Indra and the heavenly planet. The river Yamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plowshare of Lord Balaram, and all these branches of the river Yamuna are still glorifying the omnipotency of Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram and the gopis enjoyed transcendental pastimes together every night for 2 months, and time passed away so quickly that all those nights appeared to be only one night. In the presence of Lord Balaram, all the gopis and inhabitants of Vrindavan became as cheerful as they had been before in the presence of both brothers, Lord Krsna and Lord Balaram. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 64th chapter of Krsna, Lord Balaram Visits Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, so that's this is maybe a pastime Balaram we don't hear about so much relatively, and this is a pastime like like with Krishna's dancing with the gopis, not a pastime we want to imitate. We can, and an essence I get here is that, okay, of course, the residents of Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, the coward men, the gopis, the coward boys, they're always ecstatic in devotional love for Krishna and Balaram. That devotional ecstasy is often manifest in transcendently pathetic ways, crying piteously and that sort of thing. Here we see though that so Balaram's there, and then everyone's cheerful. Everyone's cheerful. So I'm experiencing that in the past 60 minutes. I'm experiencing in the past 60 minutes that we're entering into Srimad Bhagavatam. The Krishna book. This is like a summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, entering into Balaram's pastimes, and I'm feeling cheerful and uplifted. My heart's feeling cleansed. So of course we're focusing here. It's the appearance day of Lord Sri Balaram. So any hearing and chanting of Krishna, his avatars, his expansions, his pure devotees, any bona fide, authentic, I'm stressing that from the first kind of purport I mentioned that needs to be in the line of Prabhupada. Any bona fide, authentic pastimes, philosophy, hearing, chanting in Krishna consciousness, Krishna, his avatars, then immediately we experience transformation. And I can say, just in the past hour, I'm experiencing a shift in attitude, a shift in consciousness in a very wonderful way. So whenever I give myself to this process, I always get empirical evidence that, oh yeah, this is transformation. This works in a wonderful way. And whenever I'm not participating in the process, I also get evidence that the process works, because the process says, then you'll experience alienation from yourself, moroseness, etc., etc. Hare Krishna. Malini, would you like to comment?
No, I was just listening. Things are cooking, so I could pay more attention.
Okay.
And are we continuing to read?
Yes. Bhakti George.
Hare Krishna. I just had some awareness, like reading the sentence that the river Yamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plowshare of Lord Balaram.
Yeah.
Like understanding that that's history, and that is, why they're there, and also happy that I at least have the awareness that any resistance that I have to believing that it's history is just my deficiency. Whenever I have some kind of like it seems so like beyond my imagination that like how that would even happen, or so it's almost like fantastical, like when I have those thoughts that I think that, I'm like, okay, and I'm like, but I trust in Prabhupada, I trust, in Bhagavatam, and I understand that if I have those thoughts of like, oh, like, like the juxtaposition of history and this seems like magical, like a fairy tale kind of thing. I understand that, those thoughts are coming maybe because I still have some deficiency or some, that I would even question that it's history. So I was just appreciating my awareness that, and my trust today is more than it has been in previous years or times when reading. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Dr. George. I appreciate your sharing and your awareness, and I resonate with it. Yeah, okay, and that's why that's the historical, geological reason why the Yamuna has those rivulets. So, I'm trusting that more now than a year ago, certainly more than 40 years ago and 30 years ago. And to whatever extent I don't have full trust, okay, then that's my stuff, and I appreciate your trust in Srila Prabhupada, that you said that when the trust's not there, I know that's my stuff. I know back early in my years attempting Krishna consciousness, I thought, no, there's something wrong with here. I point the finger. So I experienced painful, tormenting doubts. So yeah, I'll just mention that actually in three chapters from now, it's the marriage of Samba, and Lord Balaram does something similar with the whole city of Hastinapur, and Prabhupada describes, and he's of course representing Shukadev Goswami speaking Bhagavatam, that the whole geography of the city of New Delhi today is a lot because of what Balaram did in that chapter. So we go, oh, that's unbelievable. But so I appreciate your, like, I'm seeing a lot of faith in what you're sharing, that when you see you don't have faith or trust, you know it's you and not Prabhupada. And I mean, I'm on that path too, and I wish I was further along on the path, but I'm deepened in my trust and faith hearing your sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, and like it's very attractive at the same time. Like the idea, like even reading this thing more, like I'm almost curious after class if I'll go and see in the map like how the Yamuna looks and be like, oh, okay, you know, like it's my enthusiasm is increasing reading this. So yeah.
Very wonderful. Thank you.
It's so interesting that we hear so many things on a material level, and we often just believe them very easily.
Yeah.
Trust, believe them,
Yeah.
even, mass believing, mass distortion, and how easy we can believe things that are not even true, or like that.
Yeah.
And then this is the truth. That's reality. That's absolute truth. Krishna, with eternal pastime in the material world, they are like clock. They manifest themselves in all the universes, and constantly, as long as the material world is manifested, then those pastimes are there. And we can recognize, like George was saying, we can very easily recognize that this is different. This is different. I'm hearing that, and the experience I have is different. And it's not very easy to explain it, what the experience in it. But still, the mind is doubting. When the mind is now not doubting so many things that the mind should be doubting a lot. Yeah. So that indicates, I believe is indicating that it is transcendental. That the mind is doubting. The conditioned mind doesn't want to doubt material knowledge, but the conditioned mind is going to doubt something that's not material. So
thanks for that sharing. And I'm just expanding on it. So like from, let's call it mundane material authorities, will hear something, oh, of course it's true. It's completely blind faith outside our perception. And then maybe 10 years later, or even 6 months later, those same authorities will say, oh, actually what we said was true isn't true, but now here's what you should believe. Oh, okay. Yes. So this is really a measure of our advancement in Krishna consciousness. How much am I accepting Prabhupada as an authority on everything, and not about better or worse, but just I can see I have a long way to go, and I've come a long way since I've started. Both are true. Melanie, would you like to read?
I don't have a book in front of me.
Oh, okay.
I like to hear that, I gave you a picture of the Balaram for this festival today that we didn't have. Okay. And on it, there is a sentence. And there is a chapter, and I don't remember which chapter it is, when Lord Krishna is with Balaram, and he's just glorifying Balaram. He's like seeing Vrindavan as glorifying Balaram too. every flower, every bees, and
Every
it
tree.
goes on for a little while. And I don't remember which chapter it is. Maybe you do
Okay.
know.
Yes, I'm gonna get the picture and then we'll read from that chapter, but I'll show the picture on the Zoom.
Okay.
Should have brought it.
Jai Lord Balaram ki jai.
Krishna. Oh, Krishna. All right. So here's the picture.
It's from the 2023 calendar.
Yes, okay. Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai. And the quote is spoken by, written by Prabhupada, giving us Bhagavatam, and he's quoting Krishna. Enchanted by the charming sights, fragrances, and breezes of Vrindavan forest, Krishna said to Balaram, "O brother, see these peacocks welcome you with joyful dance, and see these doe swans embrace you with their loving glance." Wow, so it's Krishna's being directly poetic. Of course, Krishna is always poetic. But even in English, the way Prabhupada translates it, see, oh brother, see these peacocks welcome you with joyful dance, and see these doe and swans embrace you with their loving glance. Okay, so I'll go to that. I'll find the chapter real quick. Krishna, Krishna. Oh, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Okay, so that looks like immediately finding where that's from. Maybe it's a paraphrase. Oh,
I know for sure that there is one of the chapter in Krishna books that start like that. Krishna is glorifying Balaram,
yes, I know that too.
but I couldn't say which one.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I know there's one too, and unfortunately I'm not remembering which one. Okay, so next, okay, we'll read one more chapter, or at least part of a chapter, and our choices are, I mean, there's many choices, but the ones that I'm coming up with, chapter 66, Deliverance of Dvivida Gorilla. My understanding is that our Parampara Das Prabhu will be in the role of the gorilla.
Oh wow, that's special.
That is special, yeah. So okay. The Marriage of Samba, that's a very Balaram chapter. And Lord Balaram tours the holy places. So these are 3 chapters that focus. There's the killing of Roma Harshan, chapter 77. Then Lord Balaram tours it, because then Lord Balaram needed to atone for the sin of killing a Brahmin. So then chapter 78 is Lord Balaram towards the sacred places. Chapter 66, deliverance of Dvivida gorilla. And chapter 67, the marriage of Samba. Okay. Any requests amongst those possibilities?
Vidvida's gorilla.
Dvivida. Okay. All right. Chapter
It would
66.
be good for Param Paraprabhu.
Yeah, get into the role. Get into the role. Chapter 66, deliverance of Dvivida gorilla. While Shukadev Goswami continued to speak on the transcendental pastimes and characteristics of Lord Krishna, King Parikshit, upon hearing him, became more and more enthusiastic and wanted to hear further. Shukadev Goswami next narrated the story of Dvivida, the gorilla who was killed by Lord Balaram. This gorilla was a great friend of Bhaumasaurus or Narakusaurus, who was killed by Krishna in connection with his kidnapping 16,000 princesses from all over the world. So a few chapters previously, that's how Krishna got the 16,000 queens there. Okay. Dvivida was the minister of King Sugriva. His brother Minda was also a very powerful gorilla king. When Dvivida gorilla heard the story of his friend Bhaumasaurus being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country in order to avenge the death of Bhaumasura. His first business was to set fires in villages, towns, and industrial and mining places, as well as the residential quarters of the mercantile men who were busy dairy farming and protecting cows. Sometimes he would uproot a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way, he created great disturbances all over the country, especially in the province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this Katwar province, and because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dvivida specifically made it his target of disturbance, because Krishna killed his friend. Yes. Dvivida was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore, and with his powerful hands, he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would overflood the neighboring cities and villages. Often he would go to the hermitages of great saintly persons and sages and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards. Not only did he create disturbances in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on their sacred sacrificial arena. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere. He also kidnapped both men and women, taking them away from their residential places to the caves of the mountains. Putting them within the caves, he would close the entrances with large chunks of stone, like the bringi insect, which arrests and carries away many flies and other insects, and puts them within the holes of the trees where he lives. He thus regularly defied the law and order of the country. Not only that, but he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by forcibly raping them. So he's causing quite vicious and severe harm. Sometimes, at least I could get, like the stories, it's like a cartoon or something, but this is quite deep grief and pain. Okay. Would someone like to continue the reading? Okay.
I can read.
Please, Bhakta George.
While creating such great disturbance all over the country, sometimes he heard very sweet musical sounds from the Raivataka mountain, and so he entered that mountain region. There he saw that Lord Balaram was present in the midst of many beautiful young girls, enjoying their company while engaged in singing and dancing. He became captivated by the beautiful features of Lord Balaram's body, each and every part of which was very beautiful, decorated as he was with the garland of lotus flowers. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed in garland with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balaram seemed to be fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverage, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. Lord Balaram appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she-elephants. This gorilla, by the name of Divida, could climb up on the trees and jump from one branch to another. Sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound, kila kila, so that Lord Balaram was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Divida would come before the women and exhibit different types of caricatures. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking, and when the gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously, but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balaram, he began to show the lower part of his body to the women, and sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. He disrespected the women even in the presence of Balaram. Lord Balaram's name suggests that he is not only very powerful, but that he takes pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary strength. So he took a stone and threw it at Divida. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balaram, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which the Varuni was kept. Divida, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off all the valuable clothes worn by Balaram and the accompanying young girls. He was so puffed up that he thought that Balaram could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balaramaji and his companions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. When Lord Balaram personally saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry and decided to kill him. Immediately, he took his club in his hands. The gorilla could understand now. The gorilla could understand that now Balaram was going to attack him. In order to counteract Balaram, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree, and with great force, he came and struck at Lord Balaram's head. Lord Balaram, however, immediately caught hold of the big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club by the name of Sunanda and began to hit the gorilla with it. The gorilla's head was severely injured. Currents of blood flowed from his head with great force, but the stream of blood enhanced his beauty like a stream of liquid manganese coming out of a great mountain. The striking of Balaram's club did not even slightly disturb him. On the contrary, he immediately uprooted another big oak tree, and after clipping off all its leaves, he began to strike Balaram's head with it. But Balaram, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took his club, Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and began to strike Lord Balaram's body. Again, Lord Balaram tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Lord Balaram, Lord Balaram would tear the tree to pieces by the striking of his club. The gorilla Divida would clutch another tree from another direction and again attack Balaram in the same way. As a result of this continuous fighting, the forest became treeless. When no more trees were available, Divida took help from the hills and threw large pieces of stone like rainfall upon the body of Balaram. Lord Balaram, also in a great sporting mood, began to smash those big pieces of stone into mere pebbles. The gorilla, being bereft of all trees and stone slabs, now stood before him and waved his strong fist. Then with great force, he began to beat the chest of Lord Balaram with his fists. This time Lord Balaram became most angry. Since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, he would not strike him back with his own weapons, the club or the plow. Simply, with his fist, he began to strike the collarbone of the gorilla. This striking proved to be fatal to Dvivida, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground. When the gorilla fell, it appeared that all the hills and forests tottered. After this horrible incident, all the siddhas, great sages, and saintly persons from the upper planetary system began to shower flowers on the person of Lord Balaram, and sounds glorifying the supremacy of Lord Balaram were vibrated. All of them began to chant, all glory is to Lord Balaram. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. By your killing this great demon Dvivida, you have initiated an auspicious era for the world. All such jubilant sounds of victory were heard from outer space. After killing the great demon Dvivida and being worshipped by showers of flowers and glorious sounds of victory, Balaram returned to his capital city, Dvarka. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 66th chapter of Krsna, the deliverance of Dvivida gorilla. Lord Sri Balarama ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, let's see. Okay, so Prabhupada points out it's chapter 15, the killing of Dhenukasura, where Krishna glorified.
Yeah.
Chapter 15, yes. Okay. So
I
thanks
can see Parampara in the role of Dvivida. Like it's really like, yeah, what a casting. Wonderful casting.
Yeah, I'll mention that it's not an R-rated version of the play, where it's more of everything described is not included in the play, but it's still very fitting for me.
Yeah, I think it's a good casting. It's nothing to do with your character. And at the same time, my sense is that you're going to play it very well. At 4:30 at the temple?
Yes, it's still on. It's planned to be 4:30.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So I was saying we'll do one more chapter, but now we're going to do another. We'll go to chapter 15, killing of Dhenukasura. Okay. And so would someone like to read chapter 15, killing of Dhenukasura?
I can. I just need to open it. Okay, here. Chapter 15, killing of Dhenukasura. You can hear me?
Yes.
In this way, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balaram, passed his childhood age known as Komara and stepped into the age of Poganda from the 6 years up to the 10th. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year's charge of the cows in the pasturing ground. Giving charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on its flute through the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flower, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee, and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were shipping birds and clear water lakes, with water that could relieve one of all fatigues. Sweet-flavored breeze blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with his friends and Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, enjoyed the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs, coming down to touch the ground, as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desire. So sweet. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balaram as follows. My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full with fruits, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness of being obliged to accept the form of trees. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives, they are now put into this stationary condition of life. But now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they are praying for further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. Generally, the trees are living entities in a mode of darkness. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. I think the drones that are buzzing all around you must have been your devotees in their past lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just like trying to spread your glories by chanting every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship, and they are disguising themselves in a form of drones because they are unable to give up your company, even for a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacock in great ecstasy are dancing before you. The deer, whose behavior is just like the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos, who are residing in the forest, are receiving you with great joy because they consider that your appearance is so auspicious in their home. Even though they are even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to their best capacity, as is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate that the footprint of your lotus feet are marking its body. I'm going to stop here.
Thank you, Melanie. Would someone else like to read?
Hello?
Kanchambala, would you like
Hello?
to read? Hello, Kanchambala.
Hello? Yeah, if you guys can hear me. Our internet's kind of in and out.
I am hearing you, yes.
Okay, close the door here. I lost the page. Could you
Okay.
let me know which page it's on?
And this
Sorry.
is page 114. It's a paragraph that begins, "It is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you." That's the beginning of the text, page 115 in the version.
Okay. Yes. It is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, creepers, and plants are also so fortunate to touch your lotus feet. And by your touching the twigs with your hands, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and the rivers, they too are now glorious because you are glancing at them. Above all, the damsels of Raj, the gopis attracted by your beauty, are the most glorious because you embrace them with your strong arms. In this way, both Lord Krishna and Balaram began to enjoy the residence of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction. Along with the calves and cows on the bank of the Jamuna, in some places, both Krishna and Balaram were accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing imitating the humming sounds of the drones and accompanying Krishna and Balaram, who were garlanded with forest flowers. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sound of the swans in the lakes, or when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating the dancing and making his friends laugh. The cows taken care of by Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing, and the boys would enjoy this exchange in their hearts. Content, they would all imitate the sound vibrations. Sorry. I'm Am I adopted? No. Okay. Sorry. They would all imitate the sound vibrations made by the different kinds of birds, especially the cuckoos, peacocks. Sorry, that was cuckoos and the cuckoo, and rajas. Sometimes when they would see the weaker animals fling out of fear, the boys, along with Krishna and Balaram, would imitate the animal with them. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balaram would put his head on the lap of one of the boys just to take rest. And Krishna would immediately come and began massaging the legs of Balaram. And sometimes he would take a palm fan and fan the body of Balaram. Sorry.
And he would fan the body of Balaram, causing a pleasing breeze to relieve him of his fatigue. Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balaram took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them, and catching their hands, he would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter of the root of a big tree or the lap of a cowherd boy and lie down. When he would lie down with a boy or a root as his pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in very sweet voices to please him. Thus, very soon his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose legs are tended by the goddess of fortune, shared himself with the cowherd boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people, but they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God. While Krishna was thus engaged in exhibiting his internal potency along with the supermost fortunate friends, there occurred another chance for him to exhibit the superhuman powers of Godhead. His most intimate friends, Sridham, Subal, and Stuka Krishna, began to address Krishna and Balaram with great love and affection thus: "Dear Balaram, you are very powerful. Your arms are very strong. Dear Krishna, you are very expert in killing all kinds of disturbing demons. Will you kindly note that just near this place there is a big forest of the name Talavan. This forest is full of palm trees, and all the trees are filled with fruit. Some are falling down, and some of them are very ripe even in the trees. It is a very nice place, but because of a great demon, Dhanukasura, it is very difficult to go there. No one can reach the trees to collect the fruits. Dear Krishna and Balaram, this demon is present there in the form of an ass, and he is surrounded by similar demon friends who assume the same shape. All of them were very strong, so it is very difficult to approach this place. Dear brothers, you are the only persons who can kill such demons other than you. No one can go there for fear of being killed. Not even animals go there. No birds are sleeping there. They have all left. One can only appreciate the sweet aroma that is coming from that place. It appears that up until now, no one has tasted the sweet fruits there, either on the tree or on the ground. Dear Krishna, to tell you frankly, we are very attracted by the sweet aroma. Dear Balaram, let us all go there and enjoy these fruits. The aroma of the fruits is now spread everywhere. Don't you smell it from here? So the cowherd boys are interested too, that Krishna and Balaram will kill this demon so they can all taste the fruits which they've been deprived of so far. When Balaram and Krishna were thus petitioned by their smiling, intimate friends, they were inclined to please them, and they began to proceed toward the forest, surrounded by all their friends. Immediately upon entering the Talavan, Balaram began to yank the trees with his arms, exhibiting the strength of an elephant. Because of this jerking, all the ripe fruits fell down on the ground. Upon hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the demon Dhanukasura, who was living there in the form of an ass, began to approach with great force, shaking the whole field so that all the trees began to move as if there were an earthquake. The demon appeared first before Balaram and began to kick his chest with his hind legs. At first, Balaram did not say anything, but the demon with great anger began to kick him again more vehemently. This time, Balaram immediately caught hold of the legs of the ass with one hand and, wheeling him around, threw him into the treetops. While he was being wheeled around by Balaram, the demon lost his life. Balaram threw the demon into the biggest palm tree about, and the demon's body was so heavy that the palm tree fell upon other trees, and several fell down. It appeared as if a great hurricane had passed through the forest, and all the trees were falling down one after another. This exhibition of extraordinary strength is not astonishing, because Balaram is the personality of Godhead known as Ananta Sheshanag, who is holding all the planets on the hoods of his millions of heads. The whole cosmic manifestation is maintained by him exactly as two threads hold the weaving of a cloth. After the demon was thrown into the trees, all the friends and associates of Dhanukasura immediately assembled and attacked Balaram and Krishna with great force. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend. But Krishna and Balaram began to catch each of the asses by the hind legs and, exactly in the same way, wheel them around. Thus they killed all of them by throwing them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, there was a panoramic scene. It appeared as if clouds of various colors were assembled in the trees. Hearing of this great incident, the demigods from the higher planets began to shower flowers on Krishna and Balaram and began to beat their drums and offer devotional prayers, just like Malini was sharing earlier in the pastime of Pralambasura. Krishna could have just instantly done it, but in a playful way, he arranged a game. So similarly here, all these demons in the form of donkey asses and their cubbing. So Krishna and Balaram arranged it that it ended up with this very artistic scene in the forest. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, there was a panoramic scene. So Krishna creates wonderful, transcendental, sublime art in these pastimes of demon killing. A few days after the killing of Dhanukasura, people began to come into the Talavan forest to collect the fruits, and animals began to return without fear to feed on the nice grasses grown there. Just by chanting or hearing these transcendental activities and pastimes of the brothers Krishna and Balaram, one can amass pious activities. When Krishna, Balaram, and their friends entered the village of Vrindavan, they played their flutes, and the boys praised their uncommon activities in the forest. Their faces were decorated with tilak and smeared with the dust raised by the cows, and Krishna's head was decorated with a peacock feather. Both he and Balaram played their flutes, and the young gopis were joyous to see Krishna returning home. All the gopis in Vrindavan remained very morose on account of Krishna's absence. All day they were thinking of Krishna in the forest or of him herding cows in the pasture. When they saw Krishna returning, all their anxieties were immediately relieved, and they began to look at his face the way drones hover over the honey of a lotus flower. When Krishna entered the village, the young gopis smiled and laughed. Krishna, while playing the flute, enjoyed the beautiful smiling faces of the gopis. Then Krishna and Balaram were immediately received by their affectionate mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, and according to the time's demands, they began to fulfill the desires of their affectionate sons. Simultaneously, the mothers rendered service and bestowed benediction upon their transcendental sons. They very nicely took care of their children by bathing and dressing them. Krishna was dressed in bluish garments, and Balaram was dressed in yellowish garments, and they were given all sorts of ornaments and flower garlands. Being relieved of the fatigue of their day's work in the pasturing ground, they looked refreshed and very beautiful. They were given palatable dishes by their mothers, and they pleasantly ate everything. After eating, they were seated nicely on clean bedding, and the mothers began to sing various songs of their activities. As soon as they sat down on the bedding, they very quickly fell fast asleep. In this way, Krishna and Balaram used to enjoy Vrindavan life as cowherd boys. Sometimes Krishna used to go with his boyfriends and with Balaram, and sometimes he used to go alone with his friends to the bank of the Yamuna and tend the cows. Gradually, the summer season arrived, and one day, while in the field, the boys and cows became very thirsty and began to drink the water of the Yamuna. The river, however, was made poisonous by the venom of the great serpent known as Kaliya. Because the water was so poisonous, the boys and cows became visibly affected immediately after drinking. They suddenly fell down on the ground, apparently dead. Then Krishna, who is the life of all that lives, who is the life of all lives, simply cast his merciful glance over them, and all the boys and cows regained consciousness and began to look at one another with great astonishment. They could understand that by drinking the water of Yamuna, they had died, and that the merciful glance of Krishna restored their life. Thus, they appreciated the mystic power of Krishna, who is known as Yogeshvara, the master of all mystic yogis. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 15th chapter of Krishna, killing of Dhenukasura. Shri Krishna Balaram ki.
Jai.
Lord Shri Balaram ki.
Jai.
Appearance day of Lord Shri Balaram ki.
Jai.
Krishna Bhakti ki.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful reading. So fun.
Yes. Transcendental fun. Thank you all for your presence and association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol. Thank you.